Hey, everybody, welcome to the Agency Side Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Levinson, and today I'm here with Edie Gelardi, a powerhouse with 20 years in printing and visual communications. As division president at Duggal Visual Solutions, she's helped major retail and beauty brands turn ideas into standout visual and experiential moments. Edie, it is great to be with you today.
Great to be with you too, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Yep. So, as I like to do with all of our guests on the show, I'm interested in your origin story and how you got into the advertising services space.
Yeah, sure. I actually started on the client side of things. I was in marketing, but I felt like I always wanted something a bit more creative. Every time I got closer to the idea, I got more excited about the work. So that led me to a small agency where I got heavily involved in helping our clients with their trade show work. And what I really liked about that is I got to see how brands show up in real life, which was quite different than how they showed up 2D on paper. I was collaborating to build these trade shows with a local fabrication house and printer, and they ended up recruiting me to the vendor side of things. I loved it there. I thought it was very paced and exciting work, and I managed a lot of great salespeople and worked with a lot of great clients. Then my life took a turn. I got pregnant with twins. And I realized I probably needed a bit more flexibility in my world. So I went into full-time sales. And that did give me the flexibility I needed. And that also opened up this great world of open cell beauty. I started doing work for the likes of Sephora and Macy's Impulse stores and Dillard's Edge stores. And what I realized quickly is that in these stores, there isn't an associate behind a case line display helping the consumer navigate the beauty world. But if I could create that environment with a display, a fixture, a graphic, and actually get people to stop in their tracks, pay attention to the marketing message, discern which product was best for them, then I was going to help both the retailer meet their goals and the brands meet their goals. And that's what I ended up doing. And I've really loved it ever since. It's really been my passion to understand that a graphic and a display wasn't just decoration, but a vehicle for persuasion.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe just for folks who, might not be familiar with what visual solutions are and what, Duggal does at such a high level, maybe you could explain to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, at Duggal, we have over 500 people whose specialty is bringing brands' vision or ideas to life in physical environments. So that can be anything from a print to a display to a 3D sculpted moment to digital signage. And this can happen in, a flagship store or a global rollout or in a cafe or at a small pop-up. Doesn't matter where, museums, offices, we bring brands' visions to life anywhere. I like to say that we cover the entire scope of space meet brand work. So wherever the space is and wherever the brand is, we're going to be there and we'll help them with everything from concept through global rollout. I think what makes Duggal unique is that we have a very boutique style service level, but a very industrial sized firing power. So we operate at a very large scale, as you mentioned, and that allows us to have everything that we need under one roof. So we have supply chains and fabrication and printers, and I mentioned 3D printing and CGI artists and digital signage teams and logistical teams all in-house. Then that, I think, allows us to execute and scale with precision.
Wow. Yeah, I'm interested in you know, how a lot of this work happens, like from the initial from the work as soon as you get it to how it's completed. What's sort of like the process within the agency?
Yeah, interesting. It happens different with each job. I say we start with a blank page every day, and we literally do. Some brands come to us and have, full decks from their agencies, from their global headquarters already vetted out down to materiality that they want to use. And our job then is to find the best way of executing that. Other brands come to us with napkin sketches or ideas or not even that. We know we want to promote, a sun-kissed look, but we have no idea how to get there. What are your ideas? So oftentimes we're involved in the conceptualization, in the research that goes into what other brands are doing, how this brand or this product stands out from others. And we're putting together full ideations and decks with various options and avenues to get there. And other times, we're just doing the execution.
Yeah. Are brands seeing this type of marketing differently than they did when you were earlier on in your career?
Yeah, I think, pop-ups are really changing the way that brands are showing up. I think they used to be, what I want to say, like a novelty, a one-off marketing moment. And now they're legitimate avenues for connecting brands to customers in a really meaningful way. And brands are building out full experience calendars and, putting a high level budget behind it. And I think that, I think we can agree that modern consumers want more meaning when they spend money, when they buy something. And I think the pop up is the perfect answer to that, right? It's about community and connection and discovery. And those are not things that you can easily get online, right? But it's
Yeah.
also, consumers also love it because they are experiencing something and it becomes social currency for them. People
Yeah.
don't necessarily like to post what they buy, but they love to post what they experience. So
Totally.
again, that's a perfect answer for that. I think a well executed pop-up experience makes you feel like you belong to something special, like you're an insider, like
Yeah.
you've been given an invitation to something. And I
Yeah.
really think the magic of pop-ups is that, entertainment is really education
Yeah.
and a sense of belonging naturally evolves into a purchase.
Yeah.
So it's more organic and interesting that way.
Do you have a favorite pop-up that you've been part of?
Yeah, I think, well, there's so many, but
Yeah.
I think one that comes to mind, because I did it recently and it is still on the move. It is a mobile pop-up, is something we did for Dolce& and Gabbana. We literally took an Airstream and we gutted the inside of it and recreated furniture that would fit inside of it, complete with sampling stations and makeup areas and lush foliage, lemon walls, and custom lounge chairs with branded umbrellas. You can see it was like this Mediterranean paradise on wheels that we created, and it was to promote their light blue fragrance, which totally tied into their national advertising, worldwide advertising, and it it was we had 2 months to produce it, so that
Wow.
might have been the challenging part behind it. And because it was mobile, because it was moving, it had lots of layers of engineering involved with it. So
Mm.
we had to, figure out how to secure the furniture to the vehicle without piercing the vehicle because we didn't want any rain or other unwanted things to come into it. And how were we going to fit everything in the vehicle once the door was closed
Mm.
because the experience extended beyond the vehicle itself. There was, yeah, we needed electricity in there because we had a freezer for lemon popsicles. And, how are we going to manage the condensation and the water and all of that? So there were lots of on the fly marketing meetings and changes and lots of pivoting in the moment. But it
Yeah.
reminded me that, creativity isn't really about control. It's more about
Yeah.
flexibility. And I think we can all agree that the best ideas come when you have no choice except they.
Totally. Who on your team is handling a lot of these logistics in terms of like, all the things you mentioned? It seems like you need a real expert. What type of roles are within your team are handling that? Thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode is brought to you by Coming Up Creative, a relationship-first boutique creative recruitment agency. We disrupt the creative ecosystem by running sophisticated, multi-channel campaigns with custom video and voice outreach that actually gets responses. We actively market the agencies and brands we represent to help them stand out to today's industry's top talent, all backed by real human connection and AI-powered targeting. If If you're ready for a modern recruitment approach, visit www.comingupllc.com and get started today.
Yeah, well, we've got brand managers who deal with the brand themselves and
Yep.
who become quite expert in that brand. So they really get in the minds and mindset and understand the objectives of the brand. And then we got project managers who are internal facing, who take the information from the brand managers and make sure that it's communicated correctly to the myriad of production teams that we use for any particular build. And then, of course, we've got the logistics. So we've got a whole internal, as I mentioned before, logistics department. So they manage things like installations and, tear downs and rebuilds and all of that. And so, it's people from all those departments coming together to create something special.
Yeah. How do you form like collaboration within a team? What's sort of like the secret sauce on that front?
Interesting. I think it's, evolving all the time. I think it's about personal and close relationships. And sometimes that takes time together, right? It
Yeah,
takes knowing people, and communication is one of the, hardest things that I think we do as a team, and making sure that we're understood. So the more that you know somebody and the more time you spend together, the more likely you are to have that connection and finish each other's sentences and understand what somebody's looking for.
yeah. It's a lot of folks work in office, correct? Is there any
Yes,
remote people as well?
we do. Duggal has offices in a number of different places. Main headquarters is New York, but my office is based out of Burbank, California. We have offices in Seattle and offices in Manhattan as well, and then West Hampton also. So it is important, like I said, that we get together, that we come together often, that we exchange ideas in person. And as beautiful as Zoom and the other tools are, I don't think you get what you get from those that the same way that you do when you're together.
Totally. There's a sense of collaboration. I know most of the clients that we have, there was a period during COVID where everybody really worked remotely, and that was that was the big thing. And then now it's either hybrid or in office, and most agencies sort of they seem like they like the in-person collaboration. It's important. How do you see I guess how do you personally view success like after one of the projects has been done? Like, how do you see that? Like, I guess it's partially, I'm sure, it has to do with the client and how they're feeling, but just kind of curious how you feel success is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the client's happy, we're happy, right? But I always want to make sure that we're delivering extra as well. So I want to make sure that we work with a lot of younger brands sometimes that maybe don't have as much experience as some of the bigger brands that we've worked with. So for them, I want to make sure that I'm helping them think like a big brand, and
Mm,
I'm making sure that the why, that the story, as well as the execution, the how, are coming
yeah,
together in an integrated, seamless way. And sometimes they forget about the story and they forget about the fact that if it has meaning, if the whatever it is that we're doing has extra meaning and ties back to the product, it's going to be that much more effective. So I think when I can deliver a little something extra like that, it also feels like a win. And of course, there's a lot of time constraints in what we do. I can't explain why, but it always
yeah,
seems like things happen at the last minute. We might be the last person in the line, so we get called when there's no time left. So when we execute something that is complex or should have taken an extra week, but we do it in record time, I always feel like that's a big win too, because at the end of the day, the client needs this message in the store for a variety of reasons, in the store or on the streets or in a cafe or whatever it is, right? In a museum.
yeah. Is the brand usually very helpful in helping you tell the story? Is it a lot of collaboration on that front as well?
I think it happens best that way.
Yeah,
Absolutely. When they come with their own ideas and what they like and what they don't, what they've tried and hasn't worked, what they have tried and has worked. I like to ask those questions a lot. I also ask what they've seen from other competitors that
mm,
they are thought was effective. That gets me more into their mindset. The more that I can adopt their mindset, the more that I can understand about their mission, their values, their voice, the better that we are at creating the end result for sure.
Yeah. Do you find that there is a difference in some of the smaller brands to the bigger brands in terms of their way of thinking? Do you feel like there is a lot more hand holding for the smaller companies, or do you feel like sometimes the smaller companies or smaller brands come in and they're knocking it out of the park too?
Yeah, for sure. Some of them do, and some startups have, great minds behind them, right? That they came from big companies, so they bring all of that expertise with them. And, I think a lot depends on if they've ever done anything like this before, right?
Right.
So if they're entering, the world of Alta and they've never done open cell before, there's a lot of logistics behind that, and we may need to help them with all of those logistics. If it's the first pop-up they've ever done, there are things that they're not even going to know to think about that we can help them through. So it
Yeah.
depends on the project and if they have experience doing it.
Yeah, and if they're thinking about doing a pop up, how are they usually coming to you? Are you reaching out to different brands, sharing your capabilities, or is a lot of it just inbound, or how does that usually come to your desk?
Yeah, I think, we do a fair amount of promoting our work,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important. But I do find as I do this for more and more years that, people find you.
Yeah.
So they've either worked with us before and they're coming back around, or they did see something that they did that we really liked and they want to execute something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, great work usually leads to more clients, so I see how that works. Well, what's your favorite part of your job personally? What do you like doing the most?
Gosh, I love being out there with clients. I love hearing what is on their mind and the struggles that they're facing, and I like coming back with ideas and figuring out how we can help solve those problems or add to a great idea that they have. I think that's really fun and meaningful to me. It feels like I don't just have one job, but 100 jobs, right? Because
Yeah,
have a little bit of in each of these companies. Yeah.
it's great. That's cool. What do you look for, like, when you're hiring people? What kind of personalities are you attracted to in terms of bringing them onto your team?
Hiring is the hardest thing in the world, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
You probably know better than anybody, right? But it's tough. You think you know what you want, and everybody comes together and is excited, and then it doesn't work out, and you're like, why didn't that work out? It was perfect. And then the strangest, meeting will happen, and you're like, well, that doesn't seem like that's going to be a good fit, and all of a sudden it's like the best fit.
Yeah.
Boggles my mind, I will say. I do find it the hardest thing to do. But, in general, we look for, people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty because this is a very
Yeah.
hands-on business. We're workers, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference, I think, between the vendor side perhaps and the client side of things.
Yeah.
We're looking for somebody who, thrives in ideas, and they don't have to have come from, the same kind of clientele that we're looking for. Just somebody who's excited about ideas, somebody who creates in their own life, somebody who, is an artist at heart,
Yeah.
those sorts of people. And then, of course,
Yeah.
they have to be, well organized, articulate, and all the other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting industry, and it's to find those conceptual thinkers. It is funny that you can find um, really talented people from different walks of life, different agency backgrounds. Yeah, it is funny that how sometimes you can meet somebody that you think is going to be the perfect fit. It doesn't necessarily work out, but then somebody maybe a little left of center comes in and just brings something to the table that you never experienced before.
I love it when that happens, actually. I find it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting when that does happen. Yeah, what's been like, just out of curiosity, what are usually like the hardest people to find? Like, what roles are usually like the trickiest to fill?
If there's one that stands out as trickier than any others, when we're hiring a brand manager, somebody who we know we have, a need for a particular client, maybe that becomes a little trickier because now I have
Yeah,
the client needs in mind and I'm hiring somebody that's going to work well with them.
yeah,
And so that becomes a very specific requirement, right? As opposed to more broad. And maybe that takes a bit more time and a bit more research to work out.
yeah, totally. As a recruiter, I'm always interested finding out what are the tricky roles to fill in different sectors. In terms of like just yourself, in terms of like things you enjoy to do outside of work, what kind of hobbies and things do you enjoy doing?
I would say bar none, travel is my favorite thing to do
Nice.
outside of work. And I honestly find so much inspiration in travel, right? You're stepping outside of your comfort zone often, or at least the way I like to travel, I like to do that. You're experiencing other cultures that might have very differing views from your own, seeing how they work in everyday life, behave in everyday life, which can be very eye-opening. Yeah, I travel is always a good idea in my opinion, and I can never get too much of it. I actually never like to go back to the same place twice,
Interesting.
which is a hard thing for my husband because he loves going back to the same place again and again and again. There's a familiarity to it, and I understand that, and comfort level, and you get to relax a little bit more quickly, which I appreciate all those things. But for me, it's about exploring and discovery and newness.
I can pick up what your husband's putting down. I'm a bit of a creature of habit. I'm like, oh, go, yeah, I got my spots that I go to that I'm used to going to, so I understand that. But yeah, your sense of adventure, that I definitely respect that as well. Do you have a favorite a trip? Obviously, you'll never return there again, but is there a favorite place?
They all hold such special places in my heart. We did a trip to Africa a couple years ago that was
Cool.
beyond magical. We've, been to Thailand, we've been to Costa Rica, we've, traveled all over Europe. I always say, and this is not my saying, but Paris is always a good idea. I adore Paris. Been to the South Pacific. I think that's the best water I've ever seen
Hmm.
in the world. Just that body of water is wow. Thought I had died and gone to heaven, actually.
That sounds cool. It's getting a little chilly here in Vermont, so you're tempting me to buy a plane ticket and get out of here. That's cool. Cool. Well, I guess I just got a couple more questions for you. Do you see any like big trends that are coming that brands should be aware of coming into 2026? Is there any? Do you have any hidden knowledge?
Yeah, I'll turn back to pop-ups again and tell you that I see a few trends happening there. One is, the beauty of a pop-up is that it can be used as a data-driven moment, right? So you can experiment with everything from, pricing and product assortment and messaging and visuals, all without a long-term lease, right? So you're
Mm,
unencumbered and it's easy to do. I think that's why we're seeing as a trend very large brands, right, that are global, as well as direct to consumer startups, all using a pop up as a data driven exercise. As a matter of fact, I had read that Glossier opened its pop up in London so that it could do just that ahead of their physical store, before opening their permanent store. And they measured things like dwell time and local engagement and whatnot to get
wow.
data so that their store was successful. So I definitely see pop-ups used that way as a trend. I think there's a lot of other trends happening in pop-ups. I think becoming they're happening for a shorter period of time, so they're becoming more exclusive. So you've got
Mm,
2 days, right? A pop-up is only alive for 2 or 3 days now, and it drives this excitement and this interesting nature about it's gonna be gone, so I better go now, right?
yeah.
So you see the line around the corner and you see, the excitement about this 2-day exclusive event. Oftentimes, they're also offering something that you can get there that you can only get there, right? So an
Mm,
exclusive product,
yeah.
a line extension or a special fragrance or something just for the pop-up. So that is also interesting. I think in general, everybody wants things to be more sustainable. Nobody wants
Yeah.
waste, and especially the younger consumer. So I think this pop up that we did for Dolce and Gabbana, where it's on wheels and it goes to a place and then breaks down and then goes to another place, is
Brilliant.
in of a pop up being reused in a very brilliant way and having less waste. I think that sustainable materials have been on the rise for a while and will continue to be. There's a lot of retailers that we work with that, are only printing on recyclable and recycled fabrics.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to like experiences, whether it's digital standalone or integrating that into a pop up, I think that, again, I get back to this data driven equation that people are looking for. So there's a number of like lift and learn displays that we've done where when you lift up the product, it immediately recognizes the display will recognize what you have picked up and start talking about that product. And then, yeah, when you put it down and pick up something else, you can also then, measure how many times was this picked up and put down and how many times was it bought and create other analytics around that.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think I even thought of it that way, but that's such a great way to capture data and know how things are performing. That's incredible. How final question, I'm always interested in technology and how it's affecting every different agency in the ad services space. Are you noticing a lot of changes within like AI, or how is that affecting Duggal?
Yeah, I mean, AI is super exciting, right? I think it is speeding everything up. I think we are just able to do research faster. We're able to do prototyping faster, whether it's, AI helping us put together mood boards and final renderings of what something will look like in a day as opposed to even 3 or 4 days, right? Those days save money and help us get to market faster and save on costs, and they're good all around. Technology in general is exciting. I think I mentioned the lift and learn. Touch screens are is something we do a lot of for brands in store. This kind of self-guided education and learning a moment. They can even be tied to websites where you can shop in store from a website.
Cool.
So that's kind of interesting in the merging of both the online and the physical worlds. Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Well, Edie, it's so wonderful chatting with you today and learning everything about Duggal. You guys are really doing some exciting stuff. If people are interested in checking out the work you folks are doing, where's the best place for them to go check it out?
Duggal.com.
Duggal.com. Awesome. Cool, Edie. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And it's been a great, wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. Hope to
All
talk to you
right.
soon.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.